Doylestown.
Our assistant would, Good evening, welcome to the December 12th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Please silence your electronic devices. If you're gonna have a private conversation, please take it outside. First up, minutes of December 5th. Anybody read them?
I read them and I found them to be substantially correct, and the only one question I had, Jen, is the one on, the dock one, I think it was Ferry Road. We just wanted to make sure that that dock, it was way different than what the plan showed in the aerial, remember? Just to put it in our remember thing.
26, Ferry?
Yeah, 26.
You're looking at the minutes of the 12th?
I don't know.
I'm talking about the minutes of the 5th. I wasn't here at the 5th.
This is the
This is
Oh, I
12th.
was here for the 5th.
You
Today.
were-
That's the minutes of the
Today's
Today's
the
the 12th.
12th.
Oh, yeah, we did talk about that. That
We
you were
did, that, yes.
gonna look into all those extra little things.
Yep,
Yep.
and that was all. That was it, page 5. Other than that, they were substantially correct.
Is that a motion?
That's the motion.
All right.
And I'll second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, so moved. First up, request for determination of applicability. You may or may not know, what you want to hear is a negative. Falls right into my dyslexia, so. First up, Carolyn Parton, 30 Westwood Road, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove 6 trees along the foundation of the home, replant with native species, and perform invasive species removal. Jen?
The staff recommends a -2 determination under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed by this RDA.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just one question.
One
Where are the invasives being removed from what part of the resource?
If you're looking out of the deck, there's a stand of, what is it? Tree removes, honeysuckle.
Okay,
There's just, yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know if it was coastal bank.
No, it's
You don't
up by the deck.
Any comments from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? None. Unanimous, so moved. Next up is a continued request for determination of applicability. I'm gonna trash this name, I'm sorry. Donna Spardella, 38 Deer Run Lane, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to expand existing deck, construct an addition over the existing porch, install mitigation plantings for after-the-fact approval of the unpermitted patio.
The representatives for the applicant have asked for a continuance to next week's meeting on the 19th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue to December 19th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous, so moved. Moving right along, request for a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. First up, Dana Roden, Quistit Harbor Preservation Trust, Inc., care of Salt Pond Bird Sanctuaries, Inc., Quistit Harbor Road, map 48-03-001B-003, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to dismantle and reconstruct 2 sections of revetment in the same footprint and install 18 feet of fiber rolls on an eroding section of coastal bank. All yours.
Good evening. My name is Jeremy Packard. I'm with Full CLE Engineering. I'm here tonight on behalf of Quistit Harbor Preservation Trust and Salt Pond Bird Sanctuaries to discuss rehabilitation and repair of the existing armor stone revetment along the nub. So the project is really about maintaining an existing licensed structure. I know there's a lot of history on this project, and a lot of you have probably ruled on this in the past. There are areas, particularly along this stretch here and along the northwest facing portion, which have fallen into disrepair over the years. various repairs have been done that haven't stood. No geotextile's been installed. Armor stone's been knocked out of place. There's significant settlement and loss of material, and so we intend to repair that. So that's the main part of this project. The second part is along on the south side. There's a eroded coastal bank due to end effects of the existing licensed structure. It is threatening the integrity of the staircase on the south side, which allows access for the public to the beach there. So our fear is that continued erosion in that area will undermine the stairs. We'll lose those, and then people will start to make their own way to the beach, which will exacerbate erosion and cause more problems down the road. So the big issue with doing work in this area is how do you access it? How do you get there to actually do the work? So in order to do that, let me get to the plans. All right, so for that, I'll start with the temporary access road directly in front of the structure. So here, this is exactly what was done in the past, licensed by DEP, Army Corps, and the commission. It's a 20-foot wide access road built by the contractor with existing and proposed stone. Basically, whatever stone that we're removing from these areas, as well as new stone they intend to put into the revetment, will be used to build up the area in front, just above the tide line, just to get the machines out of the water to be able to walk in front of the revetment. Everything will be built from the bottom up. We've had some meetings on site with the contractor. They would prefer, contractors would prefer, to stay along the top of the bank all the way. Build this whole section, which is a bit shorter, build this whole section from the top, access, and then go down right around this corner here, go down and build a temporary access around to build this side. All right, so the Preservation Trust, in the interest of keeping the aesthetics and the character of this area here, which is grown and nicely vegetated, would prefer them to stay down on the beach and not cause any more problems up top. This is certainly more expensive from a construction standpoint, but as you guys know, the Preservation Trust does a really good job of maintaining this area. They look to preserve it and continue the land management, and that's one of the ways that they intend to do so. Once the construction's complete here, temporary road will be dismantled. Anything that hasn't gone into the wall will be removed and disposed of off-site. Any of the existing stone that we're not going to reuse in the armor layer, we'll break apart and use for bedding stone as much as we can, down to 1 inch minus for the first layer, 3 to 5 ton stone for the second layer, and the 8 to 10 on the outer layer. Toe stones, we're asking the permission to remove and replace. In design, when design documents are issued, we may end up keeping those stones to minimize any impact in that area. All right, so the second part of the access is here. So Quistit Harbor House is here. This is the parking lot we intend for the staging area. There's a fire road, existing fire road here with a gate. So we'd like to allow the contractor to use this for a staging area and travel down the fire road. Now the first 550 feet or so were widened in the past to allow access for the vehicles, and then they broke off in a spur here to access the beach and then went along. So what we're looking to do with this project is to establish a sustainable path for maintenance in the future. This is an area that will require future maintenance. A stone revetment will always need maintenance, especially in the exposed area that it has. So as part of the greater land management plan for the knob, the Preservation Trust would like to establish this final 220 feet that's never been widened before as construction access. So we propose to, we have the existing path here, and we propose to widen on either side of it to get a full 20-foot width wide area to let the vehicles go down. After construction's complete, both sides will be revegetated. There's a revegetation plan prepared by Woods Hole Group, included in the notice of intent. So both sides will be revegetated so that, given a year to grow in or so, we'll still have the same existing footpath that we do today. There are 3 different stages for the revegetation. The first 550 feet, then you have the 220 feet here, which the tree removal in that area has been quantified and is in the report. This area will be replanted with some heavier 1-inch caliber juniper and other species. All invasives in the area will be removed. And then the coastal bank, same thing. That'll be more like beach grass and the like to establish the area on the bank and allow stabilization of that bank. Right now, we're having a little bit of erosion, and that's why we chose that area to access the beach, because there was existing erosion in the first place. So we'll access it there, and then that area will be restored, a mat put down over the top, beach grass planted, and allow the whole area to come back after construction's complete. Project lies within all timber resource areas: land under ocean, coastal beach, coastal bank, rocky intertidal, land subject to coastal flowage, as well as the buffer zone from the Falmouth bylaws. And with that, I'd like to open it up to discussion.
Chairman, can you go back to where you were saying how you're gonna reconstruct it and you may be utilizing the toe stones that are there? Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, there are some areas that have toe stones. I know previously toe stones weren't installed, so I guess what I'm saying is wherever we can maintain the existing toe stone and not have to dig into the bank there, then we'd like to maintain those. Really, we're looking to replace any of the old weathered rock that's kind of fallen apart, anything undersized, any kind of chink stones. That's what we're looking to replace. So anywhere we can maintain that toe stone, we'll do so.
So how are you going to incorporate these 12-ton toe stones if you keep, do you know how large the older ones are?
We don't know how large the older ones are. So all the sizing of the rock came from wave calculations specific for this location, the direction expected for a 100-year storm of wind, storm surge, and wave action. So we've sized the rock according to our calculations, and the intent is to rebuild this in a way that we don't have to come back in 5-10 years to reconstruct it. It's a very exposed area. Put large stone out there, build it tight, and that we don't have to come back and see you guys again in a couple years and try to rebuild this access road.
So I guess my question was, how are you going to tie in the smaller toe stones with the larger one? Let's assume that you don't have 12-ton toe stones out there.
If there's not 12 tons to,
Yeah. So you see how
So-
I'm saying, how are
right,
you
so-
gonna do that with different sized stone?
right, so depending on what we have when we actually get in there, if we have something that could be acceptable, an 8-ton stone, we'd leave it in place. If it's a 4-ton stone, we'd remove that, put a bigger one in its place.
Okay, but they're all gonna be sized about the same, correct? Throughout the wall, right?
It could be, I
Or
mean,
could
yeah,
be?
right.
It doesn't have to be. is
It
what
doesn't
you're
have to
telling
be,
me.
right, I
Okay,
mean, historically, it's tough to say what they put out there.
okay. And can you address some of the concerns from DMF's letter?
Oh, yeah. So one's about the winter flounder. I think,
Oh, we know about the time of year restriction. I'm talking about basically, work from the upland as much as practicable, and then the disturbance of the 620 square feet of rocky intertidal.
The rocky intertidal is where we think we have embedded toe stones, that the small area where the toe stone extends beneath the sand, beneath the rocky intertidal, where we'd have to dig into that to actually replace those stones. So it's just really the small strip in front of it. And as far as working from upland, I discussed that a bit, where naturally we'd love to just walk a machine out here and work it off from the top. That would be easier, cheaper, but it would have significantly more impact to the already established area.
Is there any way, instead of adding rock into the intertidal zone, or any other construction method that could be used?
Well,
Thinking
It's too-
mats
it's
or
too
maybe
shallow to-
like floats or something.
right, I was gonna say, it's pretty shallow to kind of,
Yeah.
to try to get any kind of barge out there, and it's rocky. The nearshore area is very rocky. I don't think you'd really get anybody to bring a vessel out there, especially loaded
That's
up
not
with
what I'm thinking. I'm
equipment.
thinking of, is there any sort of construction, like
Right.
matting or floats or anything that you could lay in that area that heavy machinery could work off of?
So you could probably do something like that up to, maybe up to this area here. And then I think once you get here, it's gonna be like the water depth. I don't know if you'd have a stable enough platform in that kind of water depth to run.
The Army
Heavy
does stuff
machine.
like this all the time, when they have to get across areas. I mean, there are like metal bridges that can be put in place. I mean, yeah, that only are that deep.
Yeah, I mean, that's nothing I've seen in my experience, but happy to look into it and
Because,
try
I mean,
to
you
talk,
have
try
to-
to,
Yeah,
yeah,
you
try to
look
talk to
into-
contractors and see if that's something that, that we could implement.
They use them in boggy areas as well. You can run excavators right over them.
Yeah.
And when you
Or
work, you
even
can
in
set
the
them down,
bogs.
run across them, and then pick them up.
Even in the river restoration,
they
they
had 'em.
use big mats
Mhm.
to,
In the water.
in wetland.
Which is
Well,
boggy.
It's boggy.
Right, yeah, boggy, but where you had some surface area to rest the mats on. I mean, we've used crane mats before, sure.
Yeah, But,
Um,
I mean, can it be put on the rocks that are on the intertidals?
No, I mean,
Other
some of
than-
these places, we've got 4 or 5 feet of water at high tide, and that's why we're building it up. I mean, that's why, so crane mats could be used when you have the beach area, where you have maybe a foot or 2 of water, where you can get them out of the water. And that's what I was saying to this area here. But once you get out here in the front, you've got enough water there that mats
In
wouldn't
high
really
tide,
work.
yeah, okay,
Sure, yeah.
okay.
Is there any way we could, since you have to have a continuance, we still don't have the DEP number or natural heritage later?
Yep.
You can go back to the contractor and kind of talk to them about a different, construction methodology in the shallower areas?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's my only concern. And know that any order of conditions that would be issued would be subject to an on-site with the chosen contractor.
Sure.
Yeah, to
Absolutely.
review all of this. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, so we have had an on-site meeting with Sumco Eco Contracting. Their resume is really good for this kind of work, at least the work in these fragile areas. So we have been proactive with that and talking to contractors and trying to figure out the best way to do it. And that's where they came up with the idea of staying up on top, and it was shot down pretty
We're
quickly.
familiar with them. The town
Uh,
hired them recently.
Positively, or?
Positively, we're very positively familiar with them.
They do. This is what the kind of area they focus on. I talked to Chris Stockwell there, and right away I sent him the plans. He was pretty excited about the project. So, yeah, I'm happy to discuss that with them and see if that's something we could come up with, kind of a hybrid solution for the access.
That's all I have right now, Mr. Chairman. I may have another question in a second.
no questions at this time. Well, that was my question. My most concern was the access.
Maury?
I just had two questions. In the old files and all the old orders and things, there are a lot, almost all of them, I think they actually, all of them do, have soundings. And they also show where they're intimate and marsh grasses, and you don't have it on your plan. And I just think if it's there, it should be represented on the plan. And if it's gone, then it would be nice to know that, is it really gone?
Okay.
But to have the depths, because if you're gonna be mucking around out there, to be at least close to the same elevation when you're done, that you're not bringing or removing or whatever.
Sure, so we just did the the topo survey in Waders, so I did it myself. So when I basically just got out as far as I could and took the shot, and that was that. So are you asking for a hydro survey?
Well, if you look at all the old orders, that's what we used to ask for. It helps, because then if, there's all this spillway, or, you leave stuff behind, and if you
So
look
that
at.
would be included in the as-built, like
Yeah,
after it's built,
and if
to
you
show
look
it's
at
the
these,
same.
they're all pretty darn close. I mean, the work that was performed was always pretty close to what was required. That was one, and then, yeah.
Yep.
And then you don't even have land containing shellfish. I mean, these are just, I know they're simple things, but they need to be on the plans, because, eelgrass and all that, it has to be part of the record of correctness. And other than that, Jen covered, it was mostly the access that I was concerned about, and
Okay.
still am.
Sure.
Thank you.
I guess my question, you're looking at not going back here for any reason for the next 25 odd years, right?
Correct.
You're confident that the 50 to 60-foot gap between the two areas where you're doing all the work is?
It is, yeah. It's really sound, and if you take a walk out there, you can see the difference in how the rock was put together. We did a full inspection report, and
Okay.
yeah, it's in good shape.
Courtney?
I only have a question on a typographical error. Which way does the ebb tide go? Away from land or toward land?
I see what you're getting at.
Huh?
I see what you're getting at.
I'm seeing flood going out and ebb going in.
Right. That's
That
a good
just
catch.
bothers
Nautical
my
sense.
sense of what should be done. Other than that, I have no questions.
Sure.
All right, Steve?
I just,
I
help me
just
with
hope there are
the
no other mistakes that I'm not picking up on.
Sure.
connecting of the 550-foot with the 200-foot section.
Oh, the,
It's hard to imagine it being 20-foot right-of-way right now, but I'll take
no,
your word
no,
for it.
no, it's like 8 feet right now. So we're requesting to widen it to 20 feet.
The 550-foot that was previously done at 20 feet, or,
Correct. The 550 and the 220. So basically a 20-foot access all the way.
okay.
So
So what-
it's grown in now over the years.
yeah.
Yeah, and so we're looking to widen the whole way to the beach.
Okay.
Temporarily, and then replant.
And that'll come out around the staircase, is that?
Just to the, I guess that would be the east of the staircase, yeah.
Hmm?
Just to the east of the staircase.
Right. All right.
There's, if you took a walk out there, you get down on the beach and look up, there's like a bit of a eroded area.
Yeah.
Just to the east of the staircase, and that's where we're looking to gain access.
Figured that out. I was trying to figure out what 20-foot would look like. And then you'll restore that after construction to
Yes,
the edges?
definitely, yes.
Okay, thanks. That's all I had.
Peter?
On the diagram, it mentions a 12-ton embedded toe stone in several areas. How many of those stones approximately are we talking about in the 12-ton class?
Well, so if you've got, 12-ton stones, like 6.5 feet wide, Probably 60.
Okay. No further questions.
Thank you. Mark?
On this area where you're putting the core logs, I'm looking at the cross-section called DD.
Sure.
Since that area is subject to erosion, I personally think putting the core logs at whatever slope it is, it looks like it's even steeper than 1-to-1, the underlying slope. That's,
Oh, yeah, it's
That's
vertical
just-
right now.
It's steep.
that's
Right.
looking for
It's
trouble.
very steep, yeah.
It really, that ought to be 1.5-to-1 there.
Well, it wants to be, and that's why it
That's
keeps on
the
eroding.
point, it wants to be, so if you wipe out the sand from in front of it, it will immediately slump off those core logs, and the core logs will be fully exposed. Whereas if you make the core logs that are 1.5 or a little shallower than that, then when you get gentle waves pulling out the sand from the bottom, it won't pull the whole thing down.
So we had talked about that during the preliminary design in this, and we're trying to avoid cutting into that existing bank as
encroaching
much
on the
as we
beach
can,
or
because
into
then
the
you
hill.
soften that up, and right. So we're really trying to strike the balance there.
But you know what's gonna happen, the sand's gonna wash out, and then the core is gonna be sitting there.
And that's why we have the anchors there to hold the cores in place,
They won't go away, but they'll be sitting there essentially at the slope
exposed, and
until they.
so we're hoping that we'd like this work to happen towards the end of the construction cycle, get all the rock done. And then we're somewhere in March, and maybe we're through the really bad storm season, right? And then place this sand, revegetate, and allow that to establish itself over the spring and summer, and bring some kind of stabilization to that area.
If you revegetate for beach grass, it's not gonna stay there. That's a sure thing.
So, yeah,
You gotta put something,
Rosa or
some
something
meat
to
to
be
it,
more
or
substantial.
you've seen, just farther up the bay, Wigwam, they put an emergency beach in, June in the spring. Two-thirds of it's gone now, and all the beach clumps are sort of falling off because they didn't have a chance to grow, and even if they grew, their roots aren't really dense
Weren't
enough to
deep
hold the
enough,
sand.
yeah.
They're good for wind, but not for water attacking it.
Okay, so you'd like to see something more substantial for the planting plan
Well,
in
it'd be
that
nice,
area?
a little more, the beach plum would be nice, but nobody likes it. I don't know, I know you don't want to encroach on the beach by making them more gentle, but it's gonna wash out to that, and then you're gonna have those exposed, and they'll deteriorate pretty rapidly,
Sure.
unless you're out there fixing them all the time. Putting more sand on every 3 months, you don't want to do
Come
that.
see you guys every couple weeks.
Right.
One other comment, you're taking a 20-foot swath down where that current walking path is, and there's some hint of a replanting plan, not to scale. How are you gonna make those grow? Are you gonna set temporary watering there for?
Yeah, temporary watering.
Okay, that's good, that wasn't mentioned, and that's
and straw,
absolutely important.
Yes, and straw to retain the moisture. And the replanting they've done in the area has actually done pretty well from previous efforts, and so we're just hoping to continue that.
Okay, well, thank you.
Good. Any other comments?
I had one quick
All right.
question for Jen. Jen, does the CZM weigh in anymore on these?
They would if the board asked them to.
I'm just thinking it might be, again, in the old file, for the consistency, I don't know. If it's redundancy and it's just more paperwork,
If you'd like a review by CZM, we can request it if you want. I'm actually gonna see, Steve McKenna tomorrow.
Right.
So, I will see. I have one additional question, Jeremy, on the replanting of section A and B. Right now, when we walked out there the other day, it was pretty, it's a lot of established beach grass in that area. And when I'm looking at the plan a little bit more closely, it looks like you have that row of stones. Am I right in seeing that you're gonna you know, fill over those stones with sand and replant that area with beach grass?
No.
No?
We're going for a splash pad in that area.
Okay.
So,
all right.
yeah, so we'd excavate right up into the point where the last stone will be.
Yep,
Place that stone, and then we have a splash pad that protects from overwash and erosion in that area, so the grass stays where it is, and then butts right up against the stone. Hopefully fills in the gaps right behind it.
okay. So on the other side, and I'm trying to remember when we went out there, on the other side of that little wire
The little
fence
fence, yeah.
that people would walk over?
Yep.
So that's gonna be a splash pad, or is that gonna be vegetated?
So that'd be, like, where it gets really close to there would be no grass there at all, that would just be splash pad. Where
Okay.
we have the bigger sections, we could probably flatten it out, leave the stone, and then leave a strip of grass in between there.
Okay, okay.
Good. Mark?
And one more comment on that where the cores are, even though it's a very small section of the beach, we've seen other places in town where they use that, similar, well, they use the idea of core logs, and they use pre-painted logs at a 1.5 to 1 slope. And among the advantages are, you've got, the way this plan shows, you've got that 1.5 slope with sand on it. All that is going to wash out pretty quickly, and nothing will stay on the logs. But if you put the logs at a 1.5, or maybe a little gentler, and pre-plant them, the sand tends to stay up on the logs, even when at the foot it's washed out. And I think it's much more likely to last longer and revegetate, much more likely than
Successfully,
this.
yeah. Okay. All right, yeah, we can look into that.
Thank you.
Any more comments from the board? Any motion before we open the public?
Well, we have to continue it, so Jeremy, the board wants soundings out there,
Yes.
and for you to locate, the salt marsh. There was remnants of salt marsh on the harbor side. And discuss with the contractor alternatives to kind of reducing the construction of that road possibly, for the area where you have to get out, you know, at least in the shallower areas. Is there any way to kind of, you're not gonna know about the existing toe stones until you dig, right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And, does the board want a review from CZM? Do you want me to discuss it with them? What would you like me to do?
I'd like you to discuss it with them.
Okay.
I think that would just, I mean, more eyes on it to make it.
Yeah, oh, and then a note on the plan to revegetate with something other than American beach grass for the core fiber rolls. And just to let you know, your sheet 4 of your access we're going to have you switch out black oak for something else,
Okay.
okay?
Yes.
How long do you think you're going to need for this, Jeremy?
The survey is the one that's gonna take,
Yeah.
that'll take
Well,
some
I
time.
mean, if you, obviously, next week is their last hearing before a break for 2 weeks from Monday. So we are looking at into January. So our next available hearing in January is going to be the 9th.
Let's, yeah, I'd like to continue to that, and then if for whatever reason we can't make that, then I'll let you know in advance, and request another continuance.
And I do want to make it clear, I don't think we need
Okay.
soundings all over, just where you're going to be working, so that we know what's there now and what the as-built will give us.
Okay, yeah, all right.
We don't need you out there, you know, quote 'em.
And hopefully by then DEP will issue.
I'm sure, yeah, I talked to them today, they just hadn't cashed the check yet, they'd received everything, they just hadn't actually, the funds hadn't cleared, so they just don't issue a file number until they actually cash the check.
Oh, okay. Would you, did.
I think it was Rita at Sierra.
Okay.
But
All right.
at the request of the applicant, I make a
Oh,
motion.
wait, one quick thing, Betsy. So for, the 9th meeting, any additional information, like your plan, a revised, possibly construction access, if you've met with, Sumco, I'd be happy to meet with a representative with Sumco as well to kind of confirm the board's concerns if you want. All that information would need to be in by the 2nd for the 9th meeting.
By the
Just so
second, okay.
the board has the ability to review, has sufficient time to review the information prior to the next meeting. And we do usually request that 1 week.
Okay.
Just for you, because we haven't seen you before, okay?
Sure, yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, not a problem. So if you do want to if you would like me to be part of the discussion with Sumco, I'd be happy to, and you can just contact us and we can schedule that.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, that sounds good.
All right.
At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue to January 9th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more comments from the board?
You'll fix the ebb and flow?
I promise I will.
And fix the ebb and flow for Courtney.
Wouldn't think I'd turn it in again with that.
Any comments from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote for continuance to January 9th. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Opposed, none, unanimous, so moved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be nice. This is a favorite spot. Are you from Falmouth?
I'm from Westport.
Okay, this is a favorite spot of lots of people in Falmouth. Yeah,
It really is a gem, once they have
yeah.
I'm lucky to be working.
All right, next up, order conditions. First one, Karen Monroe, 26 Ferry Road, East Falmouth, Mass. Jen? Brendan?
Don't want to go. You want to stay.
1 second, Mr. Chairman. Give me just 1 second.
This was the one you wanted, black oak,
Not black oak.
not black oak.
And we added some trees, didn't we?
Which one are we on?
26
Ferry
Fair-
Road.
we're in
The one
Ferry
more
Road.
Sully, the one I talked about, the dock, that didn't look the same.
Yeah, so we haven't looked into that yet, but we will.
Yep.
And we will just make sure that the order of conditions is conditioned that the dock is placed into its licensed and previously approved configuration. Is that what you want,
Yep.
Maury?
And I think Betsy, the cedars, remember they were originally gonna put them, they were on Mike's plan, and then they got removed. So,
They were gonna give us an updated plan, no?
yeah, they were gonna give us,
Hang on,
Did we get an updated plan?
not yet.
Or maybe they're waiting until we see where these
What we're-
cedars have to be put.
So we're,
I
what
mean,
was
I
that
kind of
again,
liked
guys?
where he put them, but
she took them away.
she took them away.
All right, hang on.
Put 'em back.
Brandon, help me out.
They could just be represented on Mike's plan.
What are you talking, okay, guys, go
Mike
back.
had them on the plan.
Mike had him on the plan.
He said she came with her plan, and had some trees, so he eliminated them, but I thought it was appropriate where he had them. It was between the house and the water. There are two there, and there's another one.
There are two.
Oh, I see what you're talking about.
And then
So
there's
you
another
want
here.
what?
over here.
He had four. He had
Okay.
two, one on the coastal bank and
Mhm.
one, and then two up by the house.
Correct.
And then she took them away. on her
Okay.
plan. So,
You want them put back?
Yes.
Okay.
and she was taking out the oak that was pruned improperly, and she was gonna replace that with an oak, and you did not want a black oak. You wanted a white oak or a red oak.
What's a bear
Or
oak?
Tupelo.
I never saw that
I have no
term
clue
before.
what a bare oak is.
Oh. Do you know what a bear oak is?
I kind of flagged that on that plan. I
Yeah,
just saw it.
B-A-R-E, I never,
I think it's an
No,
oak
no,
in
no,
winter.
B-E-A-R. It was like the
Bear.
animal bear.
what was it? So I couldn't help you.
scrub oak. Yep. Your new conservation, Kevin, informed us that it is another name for a scrub oak.
Okay, well, we all know them as scrub oaks and pitch pines.
Yeah, we know them as scrub oaks.
Scrub
so,
pines,
yeah.
okay.
Natives.
An angel oak.
And normally, we don't have bears
It's not
here.
an angel oak.
That was all that was on my plan.
Okay,
And I
it's
think
strange,
Betsy
the
also
angel
was concerned that, I'm throwing you under the bus because it was you.
Hey,
But
I've been
you
thrown
were
under
worried
the
about
bus
the-
3
the
times
black-
today.
The black locust, that they still had a function, so that's why we wanted more trees. So that could be the finding, that even though they were black locusts, they're holding the coastal bank.
Yeah.
And they didn't put any back, so that's why.
Thank you. I don't consider that under the bus.
Okay,
Anything else?
that's it.
So I'll make a motion to accept as discussed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Unanimous, so moved. Next, Paul and Patricia Hogan, 112 Racing Beach Avenue, Falmouth, Mass.
This was buffer
We have a
restoration?
DEP number?
This is the,
Well, we closed it.
this,
Yeah, we do
Oh,
have a
we have it.
DEP number.
this was the one that they wanted to kind of do a look-see once they get out there. There's a lot of, Rugosa Rose, big patches of it that they wanted to save, right, Jen?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
I have no mortar in the wall. You didn't want any mortar in that seawall?
No.
And then, yeah, it's gonna be the same that we conditioned the 93T ticket on, that once, staff to meet after invasive removal.
So I have a comment that I didn't make during the meeting, but it has to do with this plan.
Yes?
This plan shows this little porch here, but actually, these big stones come all the way back up to here with a path. You remember that?
Yeah, they did.
See where the little corner is in the
Where
north,
it says patio up in the north corner,
north corner?
where it says remove and replant 3 eastern red cedars, interplant with beach plum.
Yeah, that has to be done.
Yes.
But see those stones that they show? That was the patio. But there's at least that much square footage of stones that come back in a path, back east.
That go east. And that was, we also had the calculation of 186 shrubs over 6,000 square feet. So I think that's why you're gonna,
Yes.
yes, because that does not do our woody indigenous buffer planting very well. And that's all I had. More plantings, no matting of saved Rosa rugosa, no mortar, and more small cedars. Remember, we said, interplant with small, little 1-foot cedars?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
Anybody else?
I'll make a motion to accept as discussed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Unanimous, so moved. Under other business.
Oh,
Not
wait.
reasonably anticipated.
Yes, so, I have something I need to speak to the board about. Brendan's gonna go bring up our picture.
Yeah.
Has to do with Minot Beach. I sent you all an email on Friday asking you to go out to Minot Beach to look at the recent erosion out there. Brendan will bring up some pictures.
I almost drove into the ocean.
Somehow it doesn't surprise me.
Have you been out there?
What, you've seen it,
Okay.
the sacrificial dune?
Go.
Yeah, so,
Did his job.
So-
Sacrificed himself.
see this line of rocks? This line of rocks has not been exposed since I have been here,
Mhm.
that I'm aware of. So can we go to a couple other
Some of
little?
it's always been there.
Um, that's where the dune was.
There used to be a dune right here.
Yep, you can see the rocks on the old road. The old road was authorized to be removed, DPW did it early. That fence was in front of the dune that was on the parking lot. So that's what we lost.
You really wonder if we lost it, because if the stones were there before, it must not have been there before. I mean, I'm just,
Well,
Yeah,
sand
yeah, I can
moves.
see, yeah,
We
I
all
okay,
know
I see
that.
where you're going with
if the
that.
road was there and it got covered, and now
The
it's
road was there.
back,
Okay,
it's a loss and a gain
So
and a gain and a
that's-
loss.
Or you wonder if 100
2014.
years ago, it wasn't put there during a period of
Well, we
erosion,
could
and they
see
put a
them
lot of
before
rocks
that.
hoping that it
maybe we
wouldn't
just didn't
erode.
see the old road. So we could see those rocks
Right.
before, we just couldn't see the old road.
Rocks were there also.
Okay, okay.
So
So
that,
it's the road that we couldn't see. So DPW went out and removed some of the road.
Just
Back,
farther
that
down.
was a couple of years
That was
ago.
No, they just
further-
did
No,
This
again.
is further this
Another
way, isn't it?
section was
No, it's
exposed.
that.
Last Wednesday.
So anyway, what the town is wondering is that we need to protect the parking lot in the winter months, so there's four different project scenarios going on right down in this area. One, we have the beach management plan, which allows the beach superintendent to maintain the parking lots, maintain the dune walls at, the wall at Bristol Beach, install the shower towers, and it does give them the ability to install the sacrificial dunes at Minot. So that's under the beach management plan. The comprehensive, 10-year comprehensive dredge permitting plan, which includes beach nourishment, is valid until 2020, and has basically does not allow beach nourishment on the west side of Minot, which is what we're looking at, okay? We have the ability to nourish the west side of Minot under the recently approved bridge widening project, but that beach nourishment is only tied to the bridge widening. So going from a 50-foot channel to a 100-foot channel, and then allowing beach nourishment on this side of the road. And then there's the recently completed Minot Beach study that was done by Applied Coastal, that looks at this area a little more closely and has come up with some alternatives to this area. And that was, I think funding was just appropriated by town meeting to move that study forward into the engineering and permitting stages. So right now, what I'd like the board to do is, if we don't do something out here, you're at risk at losing possibly the road this winter. So what I would like to do is allow Bruce to rebuild the sacrificial dunes in the parking lot area. And then I met with, members of the town management and the DPW today, and Bruce, and they'll be coming back with an amendment to the 10-year comprehensive dredge permit, asking to allow beach nourishment on the west side so that we don't lose that parking lot.
So basically, you're saying, let's look at the fence. Put sand on the inland side of the
Yep.
fence now, sacrificial dunes, and then once
Mhm.
once it's cleared for beach nourishment in front of the fence, we build up the beach again.
Yes.
So, this was the whole area that we did from the steamship authority when we brought all the sand there?
That
It
didn't
wasn't the
come- that
steamship
didn't come from
authority.
the
Wherever it came
steamship,
from.
that came
It
from the
was
NOAA
not the-
dredging.
Yeah,
Noah
it was
Dredger.
the-
You knew it was
it
something.
the
Woods
Great
Hole.
Pond.
It was, yes, we
Okay.
had placed a large amount of sand in this area during that project,
Okay.
where they dredged the channel into Woods Hole.
Right. We all obviously have to protect the road. That's a no-brainer. My one question is that we were supposed to get reports from when we did that first beach nourishment, the impacts to Bourne Pond.
Orange
Do we-
Pond did have to be
We did.
dredged after that.
We did get reports. the sand went right into,
Right, what
right
we said it would
into-
do.
yeah,
Right into
So
they
the
is this
pond.
gonna go right into
into
the
Bourne's
pond as
Pond,
well?
and it had to be dredged back out again.
I mean, it's one of,
I know, Maury, I know.
When that was,
I know what you're saying,
when that was dredged out, where did it go?
back on the beach.
so we just swap and spit back and forth. So,
Could I ask what those foundations are?
Old structures that were there, under the study that Applied Coastal did. Those structures right there, the one that surrounded, that little picnic table was
Yes.
removed.
There's a couple of them.
Yeah, that's the old bridge where the road came in.
That's the old road.
Yeah, that's the old bridge and the
The old
road.
road used to be
And
that
then
far out.
Kidding.
that orange, I believe is an old foundation. I've heard multiple ideas of what that was. Jamie, do you remember what that was?
Well, we've had that
Yeah,
debate for like a couple years now.
yeah, no, some say it's an old hotel, an old
Whoops.
station, it's, oop.
Actually, the inlet used to be in that area, and that's an old bridge abutment.
No, the one where
Yeah,
the
the
picnic
orange
table
fences.
is.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the old bridge abutment.
Foundation for a house.
That is a foundation of some sort, yeah,
probably had a beach
That was
cabin
like
or something on it.
Pre-sixties.
yeah.
Yeah, probably a beach house.
So,
I think we're talking
But I will
that,
say those pilings are pretty well
those
preserved.
areas,
They are.
Left in 38.
those areas
Oh,
Incredibly
easy.
good shape.
are to be addressed through the engineering and permitting stages of,
The bridge.
the
Um,
Minot Beach study.
Okay.
But-
You're gonna see another notice of intent filing to address the west side of Minot Beach,
Okay.
beyond the bridge study. I mean, the widening of the bridge project,
Right. And public access of the west end.
yeah. You just snuck that one right in there, didn't you, Steve?
I have to.
Well, we should.
It's a large
I mean,
neighborhood issue.
Well, you know, we're here, we might as well
We
poke the
paid,
bear.
the town paid for
Paid
it.
for it. Is that the Haddad property?
Had that
Yeah,
property.
Yes,
I mean,
No signage, no access.
no,
What is that?
the Haddad property that we are.
So you see the two
town
people-
purchased for
you s-
public access
yeah,
and.
you see the two people
nobody has
walking on
access
the
to it.
beach? Brendan, all that area where those two people are and towards that house, no, the other house on the other side, yeah. All that parcel right there is actually owned by the town.
But you can't get there, and they've tried to make it so you can't get there.
Well, you can walk from the Minot Beach parking lot down.
You can walk to it.
Yeah, you can walk to it.
Swim to it.
You could
just
swim
climb
to it,
over
yeah.
these rocks, and then you go over the old bridge.
Roll up your pants.
Right, walk around the road,
Yeah,
and
There
you're
was
there.
supposed to be, I remember.
Isn't the
You and
reality,
I out on a field trip there,
Oh, we've been on multiple field trips.
where
I know.
well, at the time, there was supposed to be
A lot more
A
of those
little-
rocks exposed,
a
yeah.
little road to come in, so that there was actually gonna be
I know.
wheelchair access
A drop-off,
to that area, a drop-off.
We
yeah.
haven't seen a plan.
no parking, just a drop-off.
I know nothing about this stuff, but it seems to me that every piece of property above and below this area has a small pile of rocks going out that protects their beach,
You mean a groin?
a groin. I try not to use that term, it
Well,
sounds
that's what they're
disgusting.
called.
But,
That's what it is, we use it here.
oh,
That's
Or
what
jetty,
that's
you
what
can
it's
call
called.
it a jetty.
jetty, I
There you
think
go.
that's a nicer term. In any event, if in fact there's gonna be some, we're gonna continue to pour sand on this beach, it seems to me as though at some point, we're gonna have to have a couple of jetties of some considerable size
To keep the sand here.
to keep the sand there. Now, I know that that's against the rules, but it seems to me is,
Well, actually,
that's the
actually, there are
logical
jetties proposed.
conclusion of
There are
this.
jetties proposed for the
New
bridge.
One.
There's one.
Okay.
There's one small jetty to be proposed for the new bridge project, and there are different alternatives in the study done by Applied Coastal in this area, and one alternative is to install 2 additional structures.
Right.
To stop the movement of sand. Now that may or may not be allowed by regulation, the other state agencies.
So, can I just point
But
something out
those
about
alternatives
jetties?
are not before you right now, and when that plan comes before you, we'll see what the proposal is.
So, all of you have read over the last few winters about what's happened in Sandwich? Sandwich has been putting millions of dollars
Yep.
of sand trying to protect their beach. If you look at an aerial, the Army Corps has put these big jetties so that sand doesn't go into their canal, so they don't have to dredge as often. And the beach on the north side, is it north side, the other side of the canal, has grown out about a half a mile. I mean, it's,
Sagamore Beach is beautiful.
yeah, well, it's sort of classic.
They
So,
sent thank you letters.
Yeah,
oh,
but
yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I would
the
like to
federal
go
government.
back and let this board know that the town will be,
How many cubic yards are they gonna put on?
the beach nourishment, that's what we're going to figure out tomorrow. They'll be coming back for an amendment with that. As far as the dunes, I don't have that calculation.
Where
They're
will
gonna
the
be, the
sand come
dunes,
from?
are the
Yeah, I was
dunes
gonna
are gonna
ask
be,
next question.
the dunes are gonna be made, are gonna be constructed with the sand that was dredged from Rand's Canal. It's, shellier and a little bit rockier.
Mhm.
The beach nourishment material will be material that the town does have stockpiled and is much more suitable for actual beach
There
nourishment.
wouldn't be any grain requirements for the dune?
No, I wouldn't.
When do they
no.
plan on doing this?
Soon.
Soon. The
So-
dunes, soon as possible.
So will this be like a Sandwich scenario where they put it down and 80,000 cubic yards are gone in 3 days?
Well,
It could,
I can't
depends
tell
on when
you
the
what
next
the
storm
storms
hits.
I
are
know.
gonna do. But, I mean, the beach nourishment part does have to go under an amendment.
Courtney?
So I'm just saying, you'll see the amendment, I just want you to know that we will be allowing
for the
them to put.
nourishment.
Yeah, for the nourishment, we will be putting the dunes back in the parking lot area.
If there's anybody who hasn't gone out,
So,
they should go out.
Right.
so the,
It means more when you see it in life.
the long-term solution, is that what Applied Coastal is doing?
Applied Coastal has looked at a longer-term solution, yes. You have not seen that yet, you will be seeing that.
I mean, we have to do this, but it strikes me as trying to put a Band-Aid on a mortal wound, you know? It's kind of like, I don't want to use the vernacular, but relieving oneself into the wind.
Right.
And, 3 good storms this winter, and we're gonna be, we'll be back to square one, and maybe square one plus no road.
With that,
Well,
Courtney,
that's what we're trying to avoid.
I'd
so.
like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
One more quick thing. For those that I haven't introduced, Kevin Newton, stand up, Kevin. Kevin Newton is, go over to the podium, is your new part-time conservation agent.
Wow.
He is joining us. Say hi to the board, hi to Falmouth, and why don't you
Finest.
just tell the board a little bit about yourself and, where
Put him on the
you.
spot.
Yeah, Harry warned you.
I don't think he had to do that when he came.
Okay,
I
Good
already
for
He
you.
was in the
warned you.
basement for a long time.
get it easy.
Can you put the spotlight
Finally let
back
me
on him?
out.
Yeah. Put those lights back on.
Just kidding.
Yeah, so nice to meet all of you. So my name's Kevin Newton. I recently graduated from the University of New Hampshire just in May. So I'm 22, and I study wildlife biology
No.
and conservation.
No one's
We
22.
need 3 of them.
22, I'll be 23 in February. But I'm really excited to learn from these guys. They are obviously really good at what they do, and they just have a lot of knowledge for me to be able to pick at and learn from. And I already have just in these first 3 days, and I'm excited to stop in on more of these meetings and learn from you guys too. So thanks for having me. It was nice meeting you.
Well, we
Welcome.
welcome your help.
Kevin
Yeah.
will be
Listen
with
to
us
us.
Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. Okay?
Good.
Excellent.
That's 2
Now
more
you
days in
can-
Brendan.
Yeah.
Now you can make your motion, Betsy.
She
Motion
did.
to adjourn.
I seconded it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Excellent.
Chalk it up. This week Mary's back and you're out.
The only way we're gonna be able to maintain this kind of infrastructure is by
You had those pictures, you showed something I didn't even see.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I mean, I don't see us building